Dark Knights, Death Metal, Multiverse's End, Issue 1, James Tynion the Fourth, and Juan Gideon. So there you go.
Was anyone else kind of surprised that this was just one story?
Yes, this could have been a miniseries.
Not in the sense that the other two one-shots this month were also just one story, so I was expecting just one story.
Fair enough. For whatever reason, when I came into this one, Multiverse's End, it just sounded like it was going to be like not necessarily a full anthology, but like 2 or 3 stories.
No, I get that, but I feel like there's a lot going on here. This could have been a 3-issue, and I would have been fine with it.
I mean, that said, it's also like 50 pages, so if they did split it into 3, it'd only be 10 more pages technically.
Yeah.
So
So that's what I thought what you meant by just one story, just one issue. That said, I really enjoyed this. This is what I love about DC events, when it plays with all of the different continuities
and just shenanigans.
And just like I get Guy Gardner talking to Captain Carrot.
And Guy Gardner having fun punching some Nazis.
Let's explain the context of this. So the book is essentially Jon Stewart trying to convince Owlman from Earth 3 that he should enact his plan, because Owlman is basically rigged all of the tuning forks in the 6 remaining multiverses to go. He's actually planned for all this, and his motivation is quite interesting. He basically is pissed because he is the one true anti-Batman who existed way before all these dark multiverse crap phony Batman ever showed up.
I love this.
That's a great idea. And so,
I love that he's hipster evil Batman.
So the wraparound is him basically learning from Jon Stewart what the context is, which gives us a bit of a recap of certain things and so on.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, we see some of the teams in the various multiverses fighting back. We see basically all led by Green Lantern, more or less. We have Hal in one universe, we've got Guy in one, we've got Jessica and Simon in another, and they're all fighting back against the various. And we have Perpetua unleashes the multicolor core of evil Batman to fight everyone.
And I love the meta because I got annoyed at that, and then when we get to the end. And it's Owlman going off about how much of a bad idea they are. I'm just like, Tynion, you are really proving your merit here.
Well, okay, I mean, if you're going to jump to that, let's do it properly. So the whole idea here with Owlman is what eventually convinces him that he should side with the Justice League and whoever's left try to save the multiverse, is that he sees through the the Harbinger Chronicles, whatever it is. He's like, okay, how there was previous Owlmen? Like, how did they die? Because he learns, about the crisis. He learns about how Perpetua was whispering.
At first, he's gutted that he's not even the original anti-Batman.
Yeah, but he hears about how Perpetua was whispering in the ears of the Monitor and the Anti-Monitor and Darkseid, and how all the crisis happened and all built up to her being released. And he's like, okay, so how did the previous Owlmen all die? And he sees how each one died, and he's like, okay, I'm convinced. And then as he's playing out his plan, the reason why he's like on board with this and he wants to destroy all these tuning forks and why he wants to make sure that Batman and Batman's world survives is because as long as he survives, there's always going to be an Owlman because he's permanent. Because every time reality resets, there's always an Owlman because there always has to be an Owlman. The real anti-Batman will always exist because there's always going to be a Batman. It's genius.
I kind of love this.
Well, and I love that it plays too with what we learned in Metal about the owl and the hawks, and how the bat became that symbol, and then the owl was the corrupted version of that, and that's why he was Owlman and on Earth 3, and just him the No More Bats. I thought was a real fun page.
There's a lot of references in this issue.
Oh yeah, I mean, there's even a joke about putting kale in a fridge.
That was probably the only one I didn't really like that much. That one felt a little bit off to me.
That was a bit too elbow nudgy, going like, huh?
Yeah.
We're getting meh. It's fine. Also, Kyle's on the vampire planet, just for the record, and he's pissed that he's on a vampire planet.
there's structure, and he said if he gets bit, he's coming back and taking the rest of the core, which I did like.
I think that's fair.
But so with Perpetua's plan, the tuning towers are on the 4 of the darkest realities. Which I did like. So you have Earth 3, you have the Earth 10 with the Freedom Fighters, where Guy Gardner's punching Nazis, making Venditti proud. And then we got the
29
Vampire Batman.
29, 43. 43 is the vampires.
Right.
29 is the Bizarro one.
Bizarro, which I like that's a dark one, even though Bizarro isn't dark. That world's very dark.
Yeah, even though
It's
he's
upside
not
down.
inherently dark, just the idea that they're opposites of all the goodness makes it bad.
Right. I like that. And then, of course, the whole Vampire Batman Earth.
And then 50. Which one was 50?
That's the Justice Lords.
Oh, yes.
Where Flash dies. It's from the cartoon.
Yeah.
And they become, fascist superheroes. And it's almost, they're not Nazis, but they're, adjacent at that point. So, and then, of course, the tuning fork that's on the metal on Earth Zero. That goes in. But no,
and
I love how layered this was for that.
Oh yeah, and you've got, because even when it keeps cutting back to the characters who are doing the fighting, there's some good bits with Captain Carrot. I thought where he was crying his eyes out because of the people that he's lost, and those moments.
And that he's never had to deal with death.
Oh, Matt, you might.
And we had because Carrot was with Guy. He had Guy punching the Nazis
and Irish
practicing his one punch knockout.
Yes, and Irish Kid Flash was with that team as well.
Yeah, that's from the Irish Kid Flash. That's from Kingdom Come, right? That's the new Flash.
I can't remember. It's been too long.
It's been a while since I read Kingdom Come.
So I tried to find this out this morning. This is how I left my iPad in my wife's car. As we were going to the dog park this morning, I was trying to cross-reference. Where's the Justice Incarnate Wonder Woman from? What Earth? Because they were talking about how much of a warrior she is, but I can't place the Earth. And it was driving me nuts.
I think they said Earth 6.
Okay.
Or which Earth that is? I haven't got a multiverse.
I have to find, because Earth 5 is the Shazam one. So I looked up Justice League or the Justice Incarnate.
Try Earth 6, because I've got a. I think that was the one that she was.
Well, while he's looking that up, let's talk about maybe even the best thing in this issue, which I love the Owlman stuff. I love Owlman's motivations and why he does what he does. It's actually, it's technically the actual best thing in the issue. But let's talk about the fact that Bat Baby from the that last one shot popped back up, leading reading the Lantern Corps, and some of his dialogue is absolutely wonderful.
I'm going to eat your effing heart with my baby teeth.
Yes.
Stood out.
No, I'm a Batman. I can't lose. Was another line I liked. And then even at the end, he tries to please, like, but I'm just Widow.
Yeah.
I love that it's just having, because you've got like quite serious elements going on with the John and Alman stuff. Serious in context of the story, right? But then you have utterly ridiculous things like Baby Bat, and Captain Carrot is inherently a cartoonish, funny character, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, you have a wide spectrum of things in this issue.
Although Captain Carrot stuff's played pretty seriously. Although Baby Bat, just for record, if you're thinking, you didn't buy this issue, so you're just hearing what happened in the one shots because you can't afford to pick up all the tie-ins. That's fair enough. And you heard us talk about how the whole story with Baby Bat in the last time was that he couldn't stand up. His head was too heavy and he kept falling over. He's gotten around that now because he has a bat jetpack that he flies around in.
He's basically Bat Modok. I just finished West Coast Avengers, and it very much reminds me of Modok.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
Is that a bad idea?
Okay, so real quick, if she's from Earth 6, then that is the Just Imagine Stan Lee universe.
Ah.
And that checks out.
Yeah,
where
that makes sense.
It says she's an activist protesting against corporate excavation of an ancient Incan holy site near her village, Maria Mendoza. So that okay. Thank you, Connor, because it was driving me nuts. I couldn't remember what Earth, and going back through and trying to.
Yeah, I think at one point when she's calling for help, she says, "This is Wonder Woman of Earth 6."
There you go. Okay. So, I like that she's there. As there's
a wide variety of the 52 Earths represented, and I love how much DC has embraced multiversity and just the concept and the map, because it was such like just a side project ultimately that Morrison did, and I love that book, that series, all those one shots. I think it's a great story in its own right. But the idea that they did latch onto it and went, no, we're gonna build.
Yeah, but how many times does DC do that now? When you think back to all the other stories that were technically just outside of continuity that have become part of continuity.
I mean, we were just talking about Killing Joke in Three Jokers, right?
Yeah.
So, and this is why I like Morrison, because he's almost the anti-Alan Moore, where he wants you to use his ideas. He leaves these breadcrumbs, and he's like, "Hey, yeah,
How
use
about
it."
Yeah.
And the fact that there's still 7 Earths that are not known, so there's 7 other ones that people could decide.
And he intentionally left them blank for maybe for future movie or TV adaptations. Like we can slot those into that Earth, or maybe okay, you need a new Earth for whatever reason, right? Yeah. Have at it. You got 7 to choose
Grant
from.
Morrison has exactly the opposite amount of hair of Alan Moore as well, so I suppose that tracks out.
So if there is every force has an equal and opposite, I feel like Alan Moore and Grant Morrison are those opposites. Down to like Pete just said, the hair. Alan Moore is also he's English, right?
Yes, and Morrison is
Scottish. Yeah. So there's
it's a very deep-seated rivalry between the pair of them.
Both apparently use magic, to tell stories and whatnot. Both have worked on, meta stories. So like, it's very weird. But anyways, I just like just to tag on what Connor was saying, the fact that there's so many of the different Earths at play here. This really does feel like the multiverse. Like it lives up to its title, Multiversity's End.
Yeah, and
Multiverse's End.
Even just the stuff like when Alman's reviewing his history, they talk about okay, this was born with the new 52 Earths, and it's just like, no, screw it, we're just going to use that as a designation. It's fine. And I'm like, and there are some times when they use things like that, like the 0 year or Flash's year 1, where I'm like, don't put this in the story. That doesn't work. It's terrible. Whereas this, I kind of just it's kind of working for me here.
Well, what else are we going to call it? Basically, like it's there has to be some sort of
designation
breakdown for it.
Something for it, yeah.
Because I wasn't sure how I was going to feel about this early on. Because early on, it was like, okay, it's jumping around a lot. There's some of it's a bit recappy because it was like, okay, explain the backstory, and he's like, okay, well, there's Perpetua and the Source Walls and the Crisis,
and then you build into traditional Crisis backstories as well.
So, but once it built up enough, and it got to Owlman actually being convinced and his motivations, and everything about that, and then the fun of the Bat Baby with the Lantern Corps Batman, like once it got to all that though, and it all started to click into place, it actually felt like a really well-rounded full issue that somehow has completed a trilogy of tie-in one-shots this month that have all felt like they're all, if not essential, all add a lot to the overall story, and somehow has continued the trend where I don't think Death Metal's had a bad tie-in issue so far.
There's been okay tie-ins, like some of the early ones where we were like, it was just all right.
Well, I liked them more than you did. You were...
Yeah, but I mean, you wouldn't really, they weren't great either, right? They were like, they were all right. I'm not saying they were bad, but I don't think you were batting for them being great issues.
Great. I think you're underselling it though. I think it was more than just all right. I think my exact phrase at the time was, I am pleasantly surprised. These are actually pretty good.
But I mean, even still, like even by my standards, they're all right at least. There hasn't been a bad issue. I might say those were a little bit superfluous, and just kind of you could skip them quite easily if you wanted to. These 3 are a bit different, where I would probably advise them to be recommended reading for the event. The first one, the most of all, the Trinity Crisis. I think that's the most essential one, and then probably this one, because I know this one at the end says it's going to be followed up in a different one shot. Yeah. But just this dealing with the tuning forks feels like an important beat overall, at least to me. And the Flash one is probably the least important of the 3, but still.
I think this one and the Flash one feel about equal to me, because they're both essentially things that you can sum up as these other characters achieved a thing. Okay, let's move forward. That's what they both boil down to.
So what I like that they all play in the spirit of what a crisis is that we get to see the 3 different crises in the first one, in Trinity Crisis, and it explains to us that crises are important because these are flashpoint moments in DC history where things change for the big changes. And then, in a crisis, the Flash always has something important to do. And in this one, in Speed Metal, we got to see the Flashes, trying to go toe to toe with the Darkest Night,
and teasing that a Flash always dies in Crisis.
Right.
Yeah.
And here explains why crises are so important beyond their flashpoints. It's like, this is why, with the whole meta idea of Owlman's purpose here.
The effect it has on the multiverse as a whole, not just our handful of characters. I mean, obviously, quite a large cast of characters, but relatively speaking, in the multiverse, a small handful.
You know what's so funny about this is I'm looking at the way that these one-shots are all building up, and some of them I feel are quite important to the overall story. Mm-hmm. It basically, to me, says that the trade for Death Metal is going to be basically useless, and you should wait for the omnibus that'll have all of it included, because most of it seems like it's actually quite important at this point.
Or at the very least, they might do a deluxe one with some of the things cherry-picked. They do obviously usually release the trades with these one-shots more or less alongside the main trade. So you could probably pick that up, as long as you're aware going in that, okay, stop after issue 3 or whatever it was and go and read these one-shots. If you've got the other book there.
But I think the optimal...
It's a less ideal...
Yeah, the optimal experience for this is absolutely going to be an omnibus. Like, when they do the 1,000-page omnibus, because it'll probably be about that, once you account for all these one-shots that are all 50 pages, plus the main 7-issue book, like, it's easily going to get there, I think. Or close to it.
I mean, the main book alone is going to be, about 200 pages by the end, because I think they're a bit oversized.
Yeah, so... And this is our 5th, 50-page one-shot so far?
Yeah, and we've got at least 5 or 6 more to go.
Yeah, so we're usually going to do that. And then some of those big, 80 to 100-page one-shots we're getting in December, I think at least one of them is more tied to Death Metal than the other two are, so I don't know if that ends up getting included. So
far out of all of them, I feel like the first one, the Trinity Crisis, if they're going to throw that into the Death Metal, that one's probably...
That's the one
that they did the most.
That's the one that feels like it might be in the main trade no matter what, just because it actually does feel like it's just issue 4.5 or 3.5.
Just drawn by Manipul instead of
honestly, that's the only reason that isn't issue 4 is the artists.
Right.
I'm convinced they just wanted the main book to be just Snyder and Capullo, and I get that. This is their story, and I appreciate that you want that. You want to put the artist on equal footing.
It's hard to sort of pretend that it's anything but the real issue 4, just because even the cliffhangers leading into the next issue, so it's not even like it's a standalone thing that you can kind of some way carve out. This has a cliffhanger that they're going to address in the next issue.
Yeah, and this one says it's going to be continued in Rise of the New God. And I don't know when that issue is off the top of my head, but
it's coming up, I'm sure.
I'm sure.
And if it hasn't been solicited, then we'll see it in January.
I'm sure it has been solicited. It rings a bell, and more importantly, if it hadn't, we would have had plenty of news sites this week telling us, "Oh, this new issue is going to be coming," and why haven't we heard about it yet?
So, no, surprisingly very good. These one shots. I mean, I think overall this has been a very impressive event so far. Now they could completely shit the bed with the back half and all the ending stuff, but at the very least, I can't remember the last time that I've been into an event where every single tie-in thus far. And I'm including the Justice League, we've only had one issue of it so far. And don't get me wrong, I think the Justice League arc from the one issue doesn't feel as impressive as any of these recent one-shots, but it still feels like it's worth reading. I can't remember the last time an event with all these tie-ins has actually felt like I'm actually enjoying digging into more of this. I'm not, instead of feeling exhausted by all these superfluous tie-ins, I'm like, oh, this is a lot of extra little bits of context and different corners of the universe. And
if it was 2-3 tie-ins a week, it dragged you down. At most, we're getting 1, maybe 2 issues at most a week.
Yeah, it feels like they've learned to pace them.
Yeah, and I did just check the Rise of the New God. It's coming October 27th. What is interesting is it's only the backup story that spins out of the cliffhanger from Multiverse's End.
Okay.
I say cliffhanger. I mean,
that's
tentative use of that in the solicit there. But it also has Brian Hill listed as one of the writers with Tynan. So I'm assuming Hill's doing the main story and Tynan's doing the one continuing from this. But I could be wrong.
Okay. All right, Matt, what are you rating?
I don't feel like you talked about the art, which I feel really matches the chaotic aspect of everything that's going on, because I feel like Guy fits in right next to Captain Carrot, and
it's a
the
real
big head
talent.
baby.
It's a real talent to make the art feel not just consistent, but to have it be across all these different Earths and feel like it suits all of them in their own way, because they are very different Earths.
The big head baby Batman and the rainbow Batman do not feel out of place next to Owlman. You know?
Right, and like I say, Captain Carrot next to Ultraman, for example,
right,
just works.
Right. So now that I threw that there, I'm giving this an 8.5. This is a whole lot of fun.
Connor?
Yeah, same from me. 8.5.
Yeah, I'm also going to go 8.5. Very impressed with the Old Man stuff. Really, really quite love that motivation and what they did with him. So, cool.